Hey guys, it's Carlton, and of course my beautiful wife Ashley from Unspoken Vows. So we're doing obviously a video today. It's been a while since we've done a video, so this one is kind of special because it's actually kicking off a bit of a series that we're going to be doing. Just having us and some other couples talk about a pretty interesting topic. So, Han, you want to tell them what the topic is?
Yeah, we're going to be doing a series kind of focusing on marriage and money. And one of the reasons why we think this is a very important topic is because, believe it or not, most couples fight or have disagreements or arguments about money and finances. A lot of times we say, if I just had more money, we wouldn't fight about it. But that's really not true because a lot of times you're fighting about someone who is spending all the money versus someone who's trying to track every dollar coming in and you're just feeling like your money's all out of whack. Or you have enough money, but you're mismanaging those funds, or you might be kind of battling, trying to make ends meet. So we wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit this week about 4 areas where we feel like couples have some issues or might be problematic in your marriage as it relates to money and finances. And as the series goes on, we'll be bringing some other couples in to talk about their wins, their challenges, their pitfalls, and kind of give a little bit of advice in regards to how you can use money to actually strengthen your marriage and not let it be a hindrance or a problem in your marriage. So Carlton, kind of kick us off and talk a little bit about how communication can actually be a good thing in talking about marriage and finances.
Right, so communication, it's obviously key in not just the area of finances, but pretty much everything in your marriage, right? So, got to get off on the right foot as far as talking about things. So, I'll give you a quick example that was part of our story early on in our marriage. So, this was earlier, I think, just a little bit after our daughter Alyssa was born. And I was managing most of the money and everything at that point. So, one day I just kind of made a comment in passing that said, hey, feels like we don't have a lot of money. Things feel a little tight. And so for me, I was just kind of making the observation, just saying it as I was looking at our budget or our finances at the time. But for Ashley, she took it to mean that, hey, I'm not bringing in enough money. Carlton thinks I need to be doing more, and so on. And so what that meant is that she actually went and got a job doing some retail stuff that she didn't really like, didn't care for. I didn't really feel like she needed to get it. I thought we were going to be fine. It was just kind of tight for a moment. But I think that's just an example of a miscommunication, a really lack of communication, where we weren't really on the same page about how our finances looked, and it kind of caused some a little bit of angst there between us.
Yeah, I think definitely if I had made an effort to say, Carlton, when you made that statement, it made me feel like I wasn't contributing, or me being a stay-at-home mom, was making things a little bit more tight in regards to finances, and kind of really saying what I felt and how his comment affected me. But instead, I just kind of reacted and just went out and got a job, didn't even talk to him about it. So we could have avoided all of that if we had just kind of communicated and talked about it. And I would never have went and got a part-time job, and we would have kind of worked through it and been able to kind of get our finances on track, and without me actually having to get a job.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that was one example where it kind of caused again some issues for us, but really just broader than that, just talking about your different fears, shared goals or individual goals, your history with money, and all those types of things, and just getting that out on the table is key to really making things smooth in your relationship. And beyond that, I think it's also important not just that you do talk about it, but also how you talk about these things. So it's one of those things where you don't want to attack the person.
Yeah.
In situations like this, you want to make sure that you focus on the issue as much as possible. Sometimes it's easier said than done because it can turn into like, hey, you did this, you spent this, what are you doing? When it's really like, hey, how are we talking through this? Let's see how can we get on the same page as far as our finances. So, just at the end of the day, you're living as one or trying to live as one and being on the same page, excuse me. So the left hand has to kind of be aware of what the right hand is doing, so you guys can reach those shared goals. But we all know, like anything in a marriage, shared goals, but you still have two people,
Yeah.
and those two people have different personalities. So I'll let you speak some to how those personalities come into play.
Even though you're, like Carlton said, you're living as one, you've gotten married, you're bringing a lot of things into the marriage as it is. Whether you have someone who's a night owl, someone who's an early riser, you have someone who's type A anal, or someone who is kind of like a leaf in the wind, and kind of floats along in life. But as personalities, and we're talking about actual finances, you really have the spender and you have the saver. And in our marriage, I am more of a spender, which means, not that I like to spend all our money, but I don't really care to track it. Like I really don't, I'm not in the weeds and caring about the nuts and bolts and all the spreadsheets. And Carlton is like the saver. He's really the person who I would say enjoys tracking every dollar that we have and seeing where it's going and kind of allotting and budgeting everything. And I think early on it was kind of brought tension to our marriage because I'm feeling like, oh, here Carlton's coming again telling me, how to spend my money. And then Carlton's probably looking at the budget. Oh my God, here she is for the 4th time this week going to Target, spending up all the money. But as we kind of, learned and kind of gotten better at this thing as far as marriage and money, we realized that, we don't have to point fingers at each other. Yes, sometimes I might be the spender and he might be the saver, but we can learn to coexist in the same space and be able to really get on the same financial page and really want to have the same goals and kind of work together. And just because I am typically the spender and he's typically the saver, it doesn't mean that those roles have to define us. We're just really just trying to coexist in the same space together. Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah. I mean, just for me, the only thing I would kind of say is that I think you touched on is just don't let those roles too much define you. Because at the end of the day, I like to spend money. I'm sure in some sense you like to save, but just not to track it the same way that I do. But I think it's just good to acknowledge that those roles kind of exist so you can just kind of understand your spouse better for what it's worth, but not to say, hey, you're supposed to be a saver. Why are you not saving today? So. So that makes sense. The next thing then, the reason why, or one of those things, just kind of to that point, talking about personalities, me being the saver, budgeting. Everybody loves a good budget, right?
Not me.
You don't love it?
I don't love budgeting, not at all.
I wouldn't say I love the budget, but I understand its place in the world. So budgets, for me at least, I think they are key. They help out. So for us right now, we're doing what's called a zero-based budget. We've just started this, a few months ago. It's working out pretty well for us, I think, out of all the different things that we've tried before. Yeah. We're having the most success here. And what this looks like is basically tracking every dollar that we have coming in and every dollar we spend and kind of allocating it to something. And if it's not going to something we're buying, it goes towards our savings or our debt reduction goals. So I think, having a budget in place, we've, again, had some different levels of success in the past where sometimes we try to just feel our way into it and say, hey, I feel like I'm spending less money. And then you open up the bank account and it's like, no, you didn't spend less money. You thought you did, but nice try. So I think, being able to track all the expenses as they come and go is really key for us. And one other thing that I like around the budget that helps us is that the budget kind of defines what's going on. It's not a finger pointing exercise. So for example, if the clothing budget is $200 for the month and we're on March the 10th and we've already spent $199 of it, I don't have to say necessarily, look what you're doing, you're over the budget. I just say, here's the budget, look at this. I think we may be creeping up closer to it. And it kind of basically puts an objective party out there because we've already agreed to those numbers. And if we're hitting them, we're hitting them. That's just what it is. And it's not necessarily me having to come to you or vice versa. So I think the budget can help in that way. So beyond that, you want to talk about budget or?
Yeah, I just feel like the budget kind of keeps you guys accountable together. And you don't have to fight about money because it's like, okay, this is what we agreed upon, and this is kind of how we're going to go from here on out. So I think for us, it has lessened the amount of disagreements we're having about money because now we're kind of on the same page. It kind of gives you at least a kind of overarching kind of tool to help keep you on track.
Yeah.
But in talking about budgeting, I think Carlton kind of hit on it. The reason we have gotten like real hard on budgeting is because of debt reduction. And debt can be kind of like that gray cloud that's kind of, hanging over your marriage's head because now you might be saying, you had all this student loan debt and now you're the reason why we're in this whole fiasco and why it's hard for us to, make ends meet and things like that. But I think one thing that's really helpful when you're thinking about debt is to kind of say, okay, this is our debt. we are a team. We're working together. I'm not going to point fingers at you and say, you know, this is your debt. It's our debt. We're going to come up with a plan to help reduce it, and so that we're not just doing a tit for tat. And of course, you know, you want to make sure that you are staying on the same page. And I know for us, you know, when we're talking about debt, we don't have any more credit cards or any more like car loans or anything, but we did at one point. We did have I had a lot of credit card debt, and at some point I didn't even want to really talk about it with him, but you know, I think that was kind of hiding it, was not helping us. That actually was hindering us. So I think once you put it out in the open and that we did agree that this is our debt together, that it kind of helped us to become, I want to say, closer, because now we're talking about it and we're not allowing it to put problems in our marriage. We're actually allowing it to strengthen us so that we can kind of achieve a goal together. Anything else you want to hit on with talking about debt?
No, I think that's pretty much it. The plan, you got to put a plan out there and then just attack and work that plan. So getting that debt reduction is key, and that gray cloud, got to get rid of it. So there you have it, the communication, personalities, as well as the budgeting, and then the debt. Those are kind of the areas that we just wanted to touch on today that can be, you know, trouble areas for you guys. But hopefully you learned something from what we just talked through from our experiences. And like we've mentioned, we'll have some other couples and sharing their stories, in coming weeks, and just touching on some different areas where they've learned or had some even pitfalls throughout their marriage.
So join us next week as we have a couple that's going to talk about his, hers, and ours, and how it is related to merging finances. So if you want to catch that blog post, be sure to subscribe to Unspoken Vows, or follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and just be able to join us in the upcoming weeks. Thank you for joining.
Alrighty. Bye, guys.